We've doubled the number of vouchers, we've lifted the caps off of charters, we got public and private, and we have teacher evaluation. I was in a meeting the other day with about a dozen teachers who serve on the steering committee. We are reaching out all across the state involving teachers and evaluation. We're not going to slap something together and impose it on people. We are going to work with educators to come up with a system that is going to allow them to say what is the best way to pay teachers ultimately and evaluate teachers, so we reward those, the best ones, and also encourage those that need additional help to get better so they can be rewarded as well. The K through 12 changes are being heralded across many of the reform groups in the country as the most significant in the country. I'm thrilled that we could get Ohio's best politician, Gordon Gee, and a number of other presidents of universities to support this budget. The construction reform is the most significant change in that in 134 years, not bad. Liquor, by the way, 1930s. Construction reform, 134 years. It made no sense to continue to do multiple prime. Gordon Gee thinks on $1 billion construction project at Ohio State we could save $200 to $300 million just by fixing this law. And I really want to commend Senator Niehaus. This was not easy to do in the Senate, but he was able to get it done and reach good agreement. On the K through 12, most of what we've done is patterned after Race to the Top, which in many ways is more stringent a law than what we have even in our proposal or what's even in Senate Bill 5. And we appreciate the work that the Senate did on that, as well as, of course, Bill Batchelder. Sentencing reform, I think, has been lost in the mix of everything going on. To take people and put them in a community setting, to rehab them and be able to give them a second chance at life is so important. We've seen it work in youth services. We believe we can see it work in corrections. Gary Moore, I don't know where the heck he came from. Must have come out of a spaceship somewhere. But I believe that Gary Moore will become a national figure. And the reason I believe that is that Gary has so many great ideas about restraining and imprisoning those who attack our guards and attack their inmates and who are violent people. We're locking them up. But for people that should be in a more community setting, you take 12,000 people who go in the prisons for less than 1 year and stick them next to a murderer or rapist makes no sense. Gary's got many ideas for giving people a second chance. I believe lives will be saved because of prison reform. And by the way, I look forward to a combination of public and private prisons where we can get best practices from both. And I'm glad that the legislature has given us the ability to move forward on that. By the way, prevailing wage, as the thresholds have been raised, not as much as I would like, but at the same time, it's the biggest change since 1994, and if you get that, the last change was 1934. So another historic effort. You know, we've driven greater efficiency within the government. There's a whole host of other things, job training, the 20 million vouchers for job training in year 1, the 30 million in year 2. I mean, again, the scope and the breadth of this is really remarkable. The language that gives us a chance to move forward on the turnpike. We're running out of money. We will have no money to pave and do infrastructure. And we're not deciding turnpike yet. But what we do believe is it gives us the opportunity, if it will work out, to be able to make the infrastructure improvements Ohio desperately needs, along with improvements in the harbors in Cleveland and Toledo. I mean, the list goes on and on. So I think it's just a great day for Ohio. We faced our problems, we took them on, and we have now stabilized the state, and we have now created an environment. We are delivering on our promises and creating an environment where Ohio can be great again. And we got a lot of work to do. This is phase 1. We've got to make all this work. And we have many additional reforms in mind. I hate to say much about a second budget coming, but I don't want to give Tim Keene a heart attack, but we'll be looking at that. There's just enormous changes yet to make, but we're off to a very good start, and frankly, it is a new way, and it is a new day, and we are delivering. Tom?
Governor, thank you. And I just wanted to first comment on the fact that really the three of us had not worked together on any issues prior to us assuming our respective positions, and it's really been great developing that both personal and professional relationship. The governor referenced Thomas. Well, I am a Thomas, but I'm not a doubting Thomas, because I was certain that our caucus was ready to embrace significant change. And with the governor's leadership, we had some ideas to follow, and we added some ideas of our own, worked closely with the speaker. This was a very collaborative process, a very collegial process, and we had our differences at times, and had some very frank discussions about issues that were important to each of our caucuses and to the governor. But at the end of the day, we came together, and we have a budget now to present to the residents of the state of Ohio that puts us on a sound fiscal path, on a sound fiscal foundation. And I want to give a lot of credit to that to the chairman of my finance committee, Chris Widener. One of the first decisions that as president of the Senate I have to make is who are the people that are going to lead the various committees. And the most important committee is the Finance Committee. And it was very clear that in my caucus, Chris Widener was that person to lead the Finance Committee and lead us through this historic budget process. And I wanted to thank Chris for his leadership, his steadfastness, his willingness to work with the administration, with the House, again in a very collaborative and collegial way, and to navigate us to the point where we are today. I'm also proud of my caucus for their emphatic statement with this budget that we're no longer going to postpone the tough decisions. We are making the decisions today because we have run out of time, and we need to put Ohio back on the right path. And I want to thank them for standing up and supporting the effort that we put before them earlier this week when we voted on the conference committee report. The governor's already touched on a number of the highlights, and I know we want to have time for questions, but to me, in my mind, this budget speaks to relief, it speaks to recovery, and it speaks to reform. There are elements of each one of those areas in this budget that will serve us well, not only in the next 2 years, but for decades to come because of the foundation that we laid this week. And so